Yogi clan, what's up, y'all? Good afternoon. Welcome back to Yogi Cycle Service. I thank you for joining. I thank you for watching this video. What do we got in store today? Today we got in store, I have a bike. This project's already done. I am now editing the videos, and it started off as a simple, hey, let's replace all the gaskets in the primary and rebuild the starter. Easy, right? Well, let's just say sometimes the best laid plans don't always work out the way you hope it would. We wound up getting quite in depth with how much we had to tear down this bike. So let's go ahead and roll the intro. This will be episode 1. And it's probably going to be a 3, maybe a 4-part episode, depending upon how it goes together in editing. We had a lot of fun fixing this bike. We had a good time. It turned out to be a whole lot more extensive than what we thought. But you know what? I'm really glad that we found the problems that we did, because to get his bike put back together, had we not peeled that onion back one more layer, that could have been definitely much worse damage down the road than stopping, taking the time, and doing it right now. So this is a customer bike. My buddy Chuck came over to help me with it. And again, you know, I am not a all-knowing Harley mechanic, and neither is Chuck. But we both have a lot of mechanical experience, and the best thing that I can tell you is when you're working on your bike, get a shop manual for your bike. It just has everything, pretty much every nut and bolt on your bike and wire, from the front tire to the rear tire. And it is imperative that you have that book for things like torque specifications, you know, disassembly procedures, reassembly procedures, perhaps even some common troubleshooting items. Get the shop manual for your bike. I can't stress that enough. Pretty much anytime I work on a bike, I go out and I find online and I find the shop manual. Many of these shop manuals, you can download them for free. For instance, the Vulcan I'm working on this weekend. Today, downloaded a 450-page PDF of the shop manual on it, which allowed me to go in and look at exploded views of the entire engine, so I can go and make a parts list of all the gaskets and everything I needed. Exactly what we did with this bike here. So when we went to the Harley dealer to get more parts for him, we already knew part numbers and everything else, and made sure we had a full comprehensive list of everything we needed to fix this bike. So enjoy this video. Do me a favor, if you like it, give me a greasy thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you can stay abreast of future content. So we're going to have these 3 or 4 videos coming on this bike, and we're also shortly going to have the trip to California being edited, and we're also going to have the Nomad, the 99 Nomad, Kawasaki Vulcan Nomad engine rebuild series coming to you shortly, because it has a failed oil gear in it. So stay tuned. All those parts for that Nomad was ordered today, and that project will be coming up here shortly. I'll see you soon. Take care, and thank you for watching Yogi Clan.
Yeah, there are pieces of metal, a little bit of metal right there. You see that?
Yeah.
But there's still a couple big, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's still a couple big, like that one right there. So, I don't think we're going to have to take the exhaust off. I don't think we're going to have to take the rear floorboard off. I think just take this front floorboard off, take this primary off, pull the starter out, rebuild the starter, stick it back in.
Sounds like a plan.
So let's go ahead and get this bike lifted up and ready to go. First thing we'll do is we'll put Chuck on the primary, pulling off the primary, and I'll jump around to the starter side and start getting that starter pulled out. Go for it, Chuck. The first thing to do is to get all the floorboards off and your shifters out of the way. Then you can go ahead and pull the primary cover off. Take your time doing it, because it's going to drip and it's going to be a mess. From here, he's going to go ahead and loosen up his shoe on the chain tensioner. Start pulling apart the clutch, pull the snap ring out first, pull the adjusting plate out. Then he can go ahead and loosen up the bolt on the compensator and on the clutch. Meanwhile, on the other side, I'm going to go ahead and get the bolts loosened up on the starter, get the battery disconnected, and get that ready to remove the starter so we can rebuild it. On this side of the bike, he's going to loosen up the compensator first. He's going to put a wood block in there to kind of lock the clutch and the compensator sprockets down. Compensator sprocket comes off in a standard righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, but the clutch is different. You have to crank that to the right, and it is 150 pounds torque on there, so it is tough to get that one off. You definitely need a breaker bar. With that off, then you can pull everything out and just be left with your inner primary. If you look, you can see some scratches in the middle of that inner primary. You can see Chuck is finding some of the debris, or probably that clutch pack rubbed against the inner primary. It was just evidence of some of the troubles that we're gonna encounter, which will come out on a different video. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that inner primary taken off. Just take your time and read your service manual. It's not that hard a job to do. Meanwhile, I'm going to go ahead and pull apart this starter. It was extremely dirty because it was quite obvious that there was an oil leak coming from somewhere that we couldn't identify. So I'm going to go ahead, get it cleaned off, and then we'll start the process of pulling it apart so I can get that starter clutch gear out of there and we put an all balls starter clutch gear set in there, put new O-rings on it, and after we're done, I pulled off the cover that holds the piston, or the plunger rather, that makes the contact for when you give it power. So we sanded down the plunger and also sanded down the contacts. That way he had a fully rebuilt starter. Go ahead, put the bolts back in, tighten it all down. Be sure to grease the gears that work together with the new starter gear. Be sure to put some grease on there. Also make sure your little needle bearings that are in there are put in properly in their little plastic housing. And just be careful when you pull it apart. It's easy to lose those parts. So here Chuck's looking around, because it just, with that amount of oil that was splattered in there, it just didn't look right. He figures, well, let's go ahead and get this shifter seal replaced, and then we'll chew on what's going on with the transmission next.
I'm looking at this, Tim, and I'm thinking that's the main shaft seal that's leaking.
Yeah, on the primary, right?
No, on the trans.
Alright, we'll check the transmission fluid level and see if it's low or not.
The transmission I added a little bit to the transmission, not much, but I did have to add.
Well, let's keep going where we're at, and we'll take time in a few minutes to let us chew on this for a little bit, and then we'll figure out what our next steps are going to be. So he puts the shifter seal back in, I got the starter rebuilt, get that ready to put back in, and let's sit and think about this main shaft seal and what's entailed, because really all it would be is pull that nut off the pulley and pull the pulley off and replace the seal. But let me tell you, it gets a lot more in depth than that. So stay tuned. We'll bring you that video next. Thank you for watching.